Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Welcome to our podcast number 6. Today we'll be discussing marriage-related sexual issues with two ladies who are very pertinent in their experience in this field. One is my wife, Inun Mansoor, who was a marital counselor and now working as a youth counselor. And then Amirah Zaky from London, United Kingdom.
Yeah, so I'm a sex educator based in London in the UK, as you mentioned. I started in this work primarily helping women to overcome a condition called vaginismus, and then I did my certification as a sex educator in the UK. And I post content on social media, answering people's questions or providing education about sexual topics. I also offer courses, consultations, and coaching to help people with overcoming their sexual struggles.
We are a husband and wife writing team from Singapore. And we have written two books, Tranquil Hearts, A Guide to Marriage, and Sex, Soul, and Islam. To just share the message of what does Islam say about sex.
And now I'm writing our third book, which is on sexual parenting. So I think with that short introduction, we are ready to start the session.
Right. So the first question is that how to manage sexual desire as not to get sexually frustrated person, especially during unmarried life?
I would say it's so important to do whatever you can to live a fulfilling life in all the different areas of your life, because when you are so busy and passionate about the different things you do in your life, I find that there's not a lot of time to feel much sexual desire, because you wake up in the morning, you pray your prayers, you start your day, you're busy with your business or work or your studies, you're busy with making sure you uphold your relationships with your family members, having social activities, going to the gym. It can even be doing things to help other people. Some people like to do volunteering work. I feel like if you have a life that is fulfilling, that you are happy with, you don't find that yourself feeling that much sexual desire. But if you are just going to work, coming home, and you're just watching TV all the time and you don't feel fulfilled from that, usually people feel a lot of sexual desire because they are bored and they are lonely. So surround yourself with good people, schedule time in your day to do fulfilling activities. I've noticed that people tell me that they just don't even have time to feel desire.
Now, this is about realizing that we are more than a sexual being. There are other aspects of our life, but among the youth that we face today, they will ask the question, how long do we have to continue doing this? It comes with background thinking that because we have a sexual capacity, we must actualize it. Because if you are not expressing it, you are losing something. Something out. You're not being a full human being. Like these are the kind of message which movies like 40-year virgin or what, something like that.
Right.
So to them, being a 40-year virgin is abnormal. But that is actually not an Islamic perspective, because the Islamic perspective is written in, for example, in Suratul Kahfi, Inna ja'alna ma'alal ardi zinatan linabluwahum ayyuhum ahsanu amala. What is on earth has been created beautiful for you so that you will be tested. So what has been created is not necessarily for you to enjoy, but it is actually a means of trial, because our life here is not the paradise yet. This is the life of trial.
Yet at the same time, Islam sets the boundary how to fulfill your sexual desire, and that is through marriage.
Because it is also linked to a purpose behind it.
Yes.
Which is not just procreation, but also the cultivation of the souls that you bring into this earth through having a loving relationship, and then children, and then family, and then ummah, and so on and so forth.
So there is a holistic understanding about where sex is positioned in our being as a Muslim.
So it's not an end in itself.
So I think people miss that, and I really feel that when you look at any Western media, movie or shows, sex is like nothing. It's like changing clothes. Yeah, it doesn't have that specialness and the beauty and the sanctity of privacy and modesty. And I think a lot of us, if we consume this kind of material, then we'll be affected. It became like, why are we not doing this? There's also this idea of FOMO, fear of missing out. So I think we need to take a step back and we look that we are Muslim, we are given guidance, and there is logic and reason for it. Wife is not interested in sexual intimacy as she thinks that it is unclean and dirty. What does Islam say about it? about this, and how can I handle it?
The argument by the wife is completely not supportable in Islam. Because it doesn't make sense that if Islam considers it as dirty, the Prophet would not be part and parcel of this activity. He gets married, and we know that he has sexual relationships because he had children. It is a very wrong argument to say that Islam considers it as dirty. Whether you take it as physically dirty or spiritually dirty, it doesn't hold water.
Part of me is making the assumption that maybe she sees it as unclean or dirty because of the sexual fluids that are released, but also it could be seen as unclean or dirty because of what we're exposed to in society, where we've seen a cheapening in the value of sex, where it's not even intimacy, because intimacy is much more broad. It's just something you were mentioning, as though it's just taking off your clothes, and it's just cheapened its value, where it's nothing. And we kind of see that in the hypersexualization of so many things we see online or on social media. So I think it could be, physically, literally dirty in terms of janaba, but it also could be mentally, she's seeing it as something unclean and dirty, something that is just fulfillment of your base desires with no value to it. So she's seeing it as something cheapened and dirty in that sense, which is not from Islam. It's definitely from external beliefs that she's adopted.
To understand what does Islam say about sex and the position of sex in our being, right? So this is from our book. The pleasure that is felt in sexual intercourse between a man and his wife is a little sign of the next worldly pleasure. It's by Imam Ghazali from Ihya Ulumuddin. So if we look at this, it even elevate the position of sex to something that is spiritual. Yeah. So this is something that we as fellow sex worker, sex educator with Amirah, try to kind of promote, to see sex beyond the physical, that sex as a position in Islam is related to actually the Jannah, the world after.
I know from in Islam that sexual intimacy between spouses is elevated to worship and elevated to a form of sadaqah, a form of charity. And so we know that, worship is not something unclean or dirty. Sadaqah is something not unclean or dirty. So it's important to realize that when you are engaging in good quality sexual intimacy with your spouse, you are, inshallah, being rewarded by Allah for that. So, that's something to just bear in mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So the last part of the question, how can I handle it? I think we can lump together with the next question, because this is not about the presenting issue, actually. It is actually about the underlying issue.
Yeah.
So the next one is what to do if you have a sexless marriage.
It really comes down to what are the causes of the lack of sex in that marriage. It would require communication between the spouses about each other's needs, because sometimes it could be relationship issues, mental health issues in general, hormonal issues, so many things. So figure out what is the cause in order to then come up with a solution together. Sometimes some couples will need to work with a professional to help them solve issues.
When you talk about sexless marriage, this is an iceberg. So iceberg theory is that what you see is normally one ten, you see the sexless marriage, but below it are many issues, and that you mentioned some of them. So have a look at this and you print screen, because you need to know what are the issues that contributed to the sexless marriage. And sometimes it's not one, as we have experienced, Amirah, it's actually multi-layered. It can be from the individual, it can be between the couple, it could be with the external environment that really contributed to the couple just not being interested in sex. In your experience, what are the most common reason for a sexless marriage?
Porn addiction, definitely. Usually I've heard situations where the husband doesn't fulfill the emotional needs of the wife. So he refuses intimacy because she doesn't feel nurtured emotionally by the husband. It could also be sometimes the wife is refusing intimacy because she doesn't see the importance of satisfying her husband sexually. She kind of just sees sex as a means for procreation only. And So yeah, so many reasons. It can also be stress. A lot of the time there are underlying relationship issues in the marriage
Right.
that leads to that. I also want to mention that in general, kind of related to the iceberg theory that you were just sharing, is usually a sexless marriage is a symptom of much deeper
Right.
problems in the marriage. And so sometimes a
Mm.
person will see that their marriage is a sexless marriage, and they
Right.
will try to treat the symptom by
Right.
thinking, okay, how can we have sex more, or what do we need to do to have sex more? But they're just trying to treat the symptom, and that's usually very surface level. But they haven't treated the root cause of what was causing the symptom. Because if you heal the cause or treat the cause, usually the symptom goes away. So usually the husband and wife will want to engage in more sexual intimacy with each other when they resolve the issues that were there in the first place.
It happens for both men and women, but more typically for women. That sometimes in our culture, our women are what we call like superwoman. They're over functioning, and it takes a toll on them physically, emotionally, and mentally. So we do have wives who are basically just first very tired and then very irritated with the husband if they do not help out in the housework and child minding. And because of that, they just want to rest.
Yeah.
I really have no energy and no energy. Plus, I lost my desire for you because you didn't help me out. You didn't see me what my concern as a priority. And I felt that a lot of men fail to understand this.
I really urge you to take a print screen of this to give you an idea of the underlying issue, because I think in this kind of question, it is not the presenting question which is the issue, because with all this explanation that we have given, we can make sense, but the husband will still have problem in solving this issue because the wife is not really interested in the intellectual discussion. She's just using it as an excuse, actually. If you can figure this out, alhamdulillah. If not, you really have to find professional help. One thing I would like to remind husband that in Islam, at the end of the day, the buck stops at the husband. You cannot attribute this to the wife giving you problem, because as a husband, at the end of the day, whatever it is actually our responsibility to find a solution. You are required to use your mental capacity, your persuasive capacity, your whatever that Allah has given to maybe not to solve the problem, but at least to make the wife understand that you have an inner problem, that you need a bigger help, marital counselor, maybe, or sex therapist, or at the very least, a very wise common relative that you have.
So to address the question, what to do, I would say first of all is to identify which are the factors that you think contributed to the sexless marriage. And then secondly is to get help. I think if couples have sexless marriage, most likely the issue has been quite some time and it's complex and multifactorial. I know we think that we know what to do, but most of the time we are not able to. It's not normal that a couple get married and they do not want to have sex. Because the purpose of getting married is to have to legitimize your sexual relationship and to find your soulmate. So if you are not having sex together, means something is a wake up call that you need to look into it and get help. What is said is to see couple just go through life and shortchange themselves, for the sake of we have to maintain the marriage, and because of the children, because of the community, whereas you can be more proactive to look into problem solving. It doesn't go away. So we do hope that with our series, with getting resource like Amirah, that people will actually seek help. Right, next one.
My partner can only be aroused by watching porn. How to help?
I would say that the person who is consuming porn needs to get professional help to overcome that. Because their brain has become so used to a certain type of arousal. But when you work with a professional or an organization that can help you to stop consuming porn, then you will naturally find yourself being aroused by a real life in-person human, i.e. your spouse in the room with you. It's not the wife's duty to convince him to get help. She can be there to support him, especially if he says, yes, I know this is a problem. I want to get help, but I'm really struggling. Can you help me? And she can be supportive, but it's not her duty to solve the problem for him. You know, getting into the mindset of trying to convince someone it can be very challenging. And the fact that you have to convince someone to make a change means that the change isn't coming from them. If he were able to admit that this is an issue, and if he were able to admit that it's a struggle, then that's a perfect first step, because he's admitting and he's aware of the issue himself. And hopefully that will lead to his own willingness to change. And therefore the wife won't need to convince him.
So it follows that part of the help is not to entertain his porn-induced advances. And I think it will be quite difficult for many Muslim women having this idea that their responsibility is to serve the husband in any way that the husband wants.
Okay.
So
I think it's useful to also flip it for a moment. Imagine it was the woman. Imagine the woman is the one consuming porn and the man is not. And it really makes a difference, because all of a sudden, like, sometimes people have a different mindset with the woman, like, oh, the woman should just tolerate it, or, you know, that's just a man, that's how a man is. But actually, let's flip it for a moment. What would we advise the man? I would literally advise the same thing, for him to have communication with her and say, you need to seek help to overcome this. He doesn't need to convince her to change. The change needs to come from her.
Our role as a spouse is actually to remind each other. To motivate, to support, to find the resources. But at the end of the day, that party must take responsibility for themselves. Because I think, remember Surah An-Nahl, invite all to the ways of your Lord with beauty, with wisdom and beautiful saying. So it seems that the person is saying that my partner can only be aroused if they watch porn. I come across actually clients who need to watch porn even when they're having sexual intercourse. If not, they just cannot be sexually stimulated, and they cannot go on into orgasm. So I think it's a very part of and parcel of the porn addiction that is becoming very rampant in our community, and people are actually belittling or have a big blind spot about it. We felt that it's happening now.
As a community, actually what we can do is to increase this awareness that effect of porn is actually very strong, as long as drugs. I think by today, most people would not think, okay, today I try drugs because I just want to try drugs, I will not go into it. I think nobody thinks that way. As far as porn is concerned, as well as masturbation, actually, people are not thinking along that line. People are saying, let me just try a bit. So what's the problem? Everybody is doing it. I watch porn a bit. I just want to see what's happening. And after that, I won't do it. It is not as simple as that, actually. It has its own attraction as much as heroin, morphine, and the usually known drugs has. The porn has the same effect, actually. And that is an idea which the community today have not really understood.
I think you're right that a lot of people have belittled porn, where they see it as just watching a movie. You know, porn is fine because I'm not actually engaging in zina with another human. I'm just watching something. It doesn't harm anyone. I'm just satisfying myself. At least I'm not damaging anyone else's life by this, you know, so they don't see it in the context of the greater harms of their marriage. So I think that's important. And also, you know, Islam tells us to not even go near zina. It's still a form of zina, in the sense of there is something like zina of the eyes based on what you watch. So Islamically, when we talk about looking at the opposite gender, you are allowed to look, for example, if we're having healthy, respectful communication, that's fine. But if you are looking at someone and you find yourself attracted to that person in a sexual manner, the first gaze would be fine. But then if it's leading to arousal or desire, it would be required for you to lower your gaze when you continue communication with that person. And so when it comes to the context of porn, where is the lowering of the gaze in that? It is a constant gaze on another human doing a sexual act, something that has really damaging mental health effects and even spiritual effects.
So we want to introduce our brother YL from the Aware Academy, who really have written a lot about porn addiction, and more importantly, how to heal. And he also, if you can create the appointment, you can
screenshot this the address there, Aware Academy.
He has a 15 minutes consultation actually, so you can scroll down and book your time to see him. 15-minute free consultation, which I think will be a good start for people who are not sure whether they are addicted or not.
Next question is also
Absolutely.
about porn. If the penis will only be firm when watching porn, but not with me, how can I help my partner to improve? As far as how to, I think we have already
Amirah
dealt
explained,
with.
yeah.
But with regards to the first part, maybe a little bit of info. It is quite a known phenomena that when they go into porn, there is a kind of rewiring that's happening in your brain to make you prefer that form of sexual gratification, that when you come together with your sexual partner, you become not be able to be erect and climax. The phenomena is known as SADD, actually. Sexual Attention Deficit Disorder, coined by Ian Kerner. He beginning to have hundreds of cases of men not being able to climax, even with the partner right in front of them. But when they do it through masturbation, they can do it. The explanation to that phenomena is already recognized in the field of sex therapy, but the solution is still the same as the previous question. You need professional help because it is a very specialized area.
Right. Yeah. And I want to underline, spotlight, highlight that how can I help my partner to improve? You cannot help him to improve. He has to want to do it, but you need to support him to do it. Don't be over functioning lah, because you end up feeling like guilty as if it's your fault. Yeah. So there's another question that's related to that, which is I am addicted to porn since 15 years old. I am now 24 years old. Will this be a problem when I'm married?
This is related to the thinking among unmarried men and women that while they are not married, so they think, since I'm not married, I don't have a partner, I go into porn. When I get married, I stop all this. So it's logical, actually. But things are happening in your brain that defy that logic, actually. Because when it's very much like going into drug. You cannot say that, oh, every Monday, Thursday, Wednesday, I take morphine, heroin, what else, the new drugs. On Friday, I'll be a good Muslim. It doesn't work that way because along the way, the brain has been changed.
Yeah. I think the term is that it is an addiction.
In the book, Porn is Mental by Wael Ibrahim, he called it it's a visual cocaine.
The question asks, will this be a problem when married? So one is that you may not be able to perform. And that's because what you see in porn create an impression that you must last very long, you must be very big, that kind of thing, which normal human being doesn't have this capacity. And I do encounter partners who felt very overwhelmed. After watching porn, the husband will expect them to be able to be excited, to be hot on bed, not knowing that for the sexual relationship to be a two-way process, you need to seduce each other, and that the woman especially need to be happy with you. So porn rob us of all this and just encourage you to focus on the genital penetration, which is only I think about 1/10 of what sexual relationship is about. So really I felt messed up how we see sexual relationship with this couple.
If it's a man who is consuming porn before marriage, it can actually affect his ability to find a spouse. Like he might start getting to know some women for marriage, and then he might not be happy with how they look because of what he's used to seeing in porn, or he might be expecting her to provide certain things sexually for him that he's seen in porn that she might not be comfortable with or not allowed in Islam. So if you have that awareness that you are consuming porn before marriage, before you even start the search process trying to find someone to marry, it's worth working with a professional or joining an organization to help you overcome the porn consumption.
Yes. Shall I take the question about advice and tips for first timer? What is your advice? What's your important advice tips for the first time intercourse that related with self-confidence? Thanks.
I have a whole course on this for women.
Yeah, I thought remember. Yeah. Okay.
My course for women is called Confident Marital Sex, and it teaches women how to overcome a fear of sex, how to have first-time sex in a way that is completely comfortable and pain-free. So that course is for women. It's called Confident Marital Sex. The other course I have is for men. I do have a course for men, and there is a section aimed at single men what they can do to prepare before they get married so they can feel more confident as well. Yeah, intimacy for men. And then part of the course also has a section for men once they are married, how they can satisfy their wife or how they can help their wife to overcome any issues that she may have. So I would say, you can definitely check out the course, but what it comes down to is as much sex education beforehand, educating yourself about whether it's, different types of desire, knowing that there's spontaneous desire, contextual desire, responsive desire, doing as much faith-aligned sex education. I would recommend, for example, getting your book, Sex, Soul and Islam. I would also recommend, educating yourself about marriage in general, because sexual intimacy can only happen within marriage. And so it's important to understand what is a marriage.
What is our message about the first night?
We like to remind you that there is one hadith that say to the widow 3 nights and to the virgin 7 nights. So the consummation doesn't have to happen on the first night. The Prophet's idea is you should take your time. He gave an example, the widow, meaning a person who has sexual experience, even her, not expected to consummate the first meeting. It's about taking time. So our advice would be, in your honeymoon, you forget about sex. What you should focus on is getting to know the two of you intimately, spiritually, emotionally, also socially, actually. Because you may have been girlfriend, boyfriend for a long time, but that is before marriage. Now that you are going into marriage, new problems, issues, hopes, and ambitions, all that have to be discussed. So you have to start anew your relationship. And that approach is also in line with what the Prophet mentioned to all couples, whether you are first-time lover or veteran lover, in the Messenger hadith, which says that let none of you approach your wife like an animal. Let there be a messenger. So intercourse, the animalistic sex, should not be our preoccupation. The first thing that we should do is to establish that emotional connection between the two of you. So if you spend your honeymoon getting to know each other, you are actually following the sunnah of the Prophet. That is to establish, he called it a messenger, the sensual and the emotional and the spiritual connection and comfort between the two of you. After that has happened, the sex will be natural.
The point to consider is that on the wedding night, you most probably have 4-5 days of massive organization, argument with your family member, anxiety, stress, to the lead up of the wedding. Why would you think that on the wedding night, when the walima is over, that you have physically, emotionally ready to consume it? All you want to do is just actually sleep, and that's fine. Right? So, yeah.
Sleep together.
Sleep together. Yeah. And just cuddle, so...
Right, the sexual sense.
Yeah.
The normal sense.
Remove this anxiety that you must have sex on the first night.
According to the hadith,
It's-
on the first week also,
you don't
not
have...
expected. Yeah.
Yes. I dealt with youngsters who unwed mothers. The couples always say that we didn't intend to have sex at all. We were just, the first time, we didn't intend to have sex. We were just cuddling and just kissing, touching each other's body, and one thing lead to another. Meaning they are focusing on the other sensation that the body can feel. It's also no pressure. And naturally, when this happened, then I think for the woman, they would be more relaxed, and then they would have the lubricants that will help in sexual intercourse. But because if they are stressed, definitely it's not happening.
From the question, this is from a decent
Person.
Muslim person, which is good.
Yeah.
Continue with your thinking, but you don't have to worry, especially if you take to heart that Prophet's hadith, that don't be preoccupied with the intercourse, focus on the emotional, spiritual, sensual connection.
Yeah.
It will fall into place, actually. You don't need to be taught how to do, especially don't go into porn to learn about this.
Yep.
Because porn will teach you the wrong thing.
Yep. All right. Another question. Can we find time to enjoy jima with 3 young children?
I hope you are not trying to enjoy jima with 3 young children. I think we know what they mean.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Yeah, so I think my advice would be communication about making sure the roles feel quite balanced between the spouses, in terms of if one spouse feels like they're taking on too much with regards to raising the children and, maybe feeling overwhelmed with that. So good communication between the spouses to make it easier for each other, working as a team. I would say seeing if it's possible to get someone to look after the kids for the evening so you can have quality time as a spouse. It depends how young these children are. If they are going to, day school or nursery or school, sometimes intimacy can be enjoyed during the daytime when the kids are at nursery or school, or when they are having a nap. So it's really down to communication, and down to making sure that you are spending good quality emotional time together as husband and wife, prioritizing each other as much as possible, because naturally the intimacy will happen when you are connecting emotionally.
Try to put the children to sleep early. Right.
Yeah.
If you put the children to sleep by 9 or by 8, then you have more time to rest. But for your children to sleep at 9 o'clock, you must tire them up. You must bring them to physical activity. You must engage with them. Bring them to the playground. Read to them as a winding down option. Compared to what I see parents do now, they give the children a tablet, screen time as a child minder, and the child just get very stimulated and have difficulty sleeping, because there are many studies that show that you need at least half an hour to 1 hour off the screen in order for your brain to settle down and sleep. Where else now parents just give the children tablet to quiet them down.
In order for that to happen, the parents today also are too attached to the tablets and to the phones. Stop this digital reliance to be more hands-on, to do more physical things. So you need to be physical yourself.
I would say a huge component is nurturing emotional connection between the spouses. It's so easy to kind of get preoccupied with all the things that we do in our day, whether it's busy at work, busy at home, with it's important to still make time to prioritize each other. Because before the kids came, it was just the husband and wife. And so it's important. That's the foundation of the family, is the husband and wife. With so many times people put their kids first before the marriage. The marriage is actually the foundation. So make sure you are prioritizing the marriage, prioritizing the relationship between the husband and wife.
The word jima in the question triggered my thinking. There can also be too much obsession on intercourse, which cause a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, pressure actually to perform as husband and wife. If you take away jima, sexual intercourse, you will understand that sexual relationship has got a lot more variety. It goes back to the hadith. When you go back to the hadith, our focus should be firstly the psycho-emotional connection, but after that, or maybe together with that, is the sensual connection. There are a lot more to enjoy between the two of you than your genitals.
In terms of couple relationship, we have the day-to-day out of bed touches and communication. The way, like when you give a peck to your partner as he goes off to work, or when you at home, you just put your hand over them, you pinch them, or you just like hug them. Correct. That's fine. Yeah, caress. So even kiss on the peck, I give a peck on the cheek in front of the child. That's fine. It's teaching them what is couple relationship about. So this is the normal thing that need to be done. And then we have the level 2 is actually the sensual psycho-emotional pleasure in the foreplay. So this one, expand what Osman said. You shouldn't see sex as just a genital connection. People miss out the ability to give pleasure by touching, sensual massage, just hugging each other, or even caressing, be it therapeutic or gentle touches on the body, is more comforting, because the entire skin is a sexual organ. It's not limited to your genitals area. So we miss this. And the third part is what we call the erotic stimulation. This will be the work of our favorite brother, Habib Akandi. So we see this spectrum of how to see sexuality in Islam. So he has more techniques and more example how to actually intensify or heighten the sexual pleasure that couple can experience. Yeah, so one of his monumental book that we love and always will show A Taste of Honey. I want to pick up this question with another question. My partner and I both are so tired we work to get together sexually. Not sure how to cater this issue. Do we apply live together? That means you only have sex like 14 days a year because our leave is only about 18 to 14 days. Yeah. Right. So our thoughts, because we often get this question actually, is that if you are tired, you settle down at 9 and 10 o'clock, you're tired, you just sleep. There is nothing to say that you must have sex before 12 o'clock. We are not Cinderella. Or that you must have sex at night. So the best thing is sleep. Let the body rest, cuddle up and sleep. So set the alarm. If subuh is like say 6 o'clock, you set it at 5:30 a.m. and then you'll be so fresh. And then it's really enjoyable period, very quiet time that you can enjoy sex. Sex doesn't have to be at night. But I realize most couple, they don't sleep early
Mhm.
because they are on the phone watching screen time, watching IG, Netflix, Turkish drama, Korean drama, that kind of thing. And they must realize that this is actually kind of wasteful time that doesn't allow your body to calm down and sleep. So it's most important. I think couple should have a habit like maybe 2 or 3 times a week. We sleep early, we wake up early. Try it. It will really change how you feel, how energetic you'll be in the morning.
It will be very frustrating if both of you are tired and then you try to be intimate. You'll be irritating each other.
Yeah.
And then if it continues every day, it can actually spoil your marriage.
Yeah.
So it's better to go with the flow. If you're tired, sleep.
Yeah.
And usually, fatigue-induced sleep usually is very deep. And when by the time you wake up, the world will be sleeping, including your children. You'll be fresh.
Yeah.
Calendars. I know they're both busy, but they can look at their calendars and look at when, if they happen to have free time together, whether it be on the weekends or certain days where they might be working from home. Looking at communication. It comes down to communication. What can they do to make sure that they are well rested and energized, spending good quality time together. Also looking at other factors in terms of their nutrition and their lifestyle, because if they have a very busy career, but they're also not having a very healthy level of nutrition, and they're not sleeping well, and they're constantly on screen, and they are not moving their bodies, that's just exacerbates their energy, like as in their lack of sleep is going to feel exacerbated by lack of energy. So it's worth looking at it holistically.
If our tip doesn't lead to sex in the early morning, it's okay, because again, the preoccupation should not be with intercourse. If in that process you actually get relaxed together, and you can spend time on bed together, even though you don't have sex, what's more important is that you have a common experience that you share between each other. The bond is built such that when you have that off chance of meeting 18 days per year, it doesn't matter, because when you meet, or it could be public holidays and weekends, even though you don't have that much sex, but when you meet, it is a question of quality rather than quantity. You think about it, the people who have sex every day doesn't mean it is of quality. Sometimes it is just relieving of sexual tension with no connection, actually.
Right.
So it's better to focus on sharing this tiredness. It reminds me also, having 3 kids is only a phase of your marriage. Those kids will grow up one day, and then
they will leave you.
They will leave you or whatever. The most important thing is when they reach that time when you are left alone, if you have not developed your connection, it doesn't help. When they are not around, it doesn't help.
Right. All right, next question. Okay, this is quite interesting. During sexual activity, my partner's penis initially remains flaccid, but subsequently becomes erect. Is this normal?
To me, it sounds so fine. If eventually it becomes erect, it could just be he requires a certain level of mental, emotional, and physical stimulation in order for his penis to become erect. It depends on, if it is something that is impacting the sexual experience, but if it's something that is not impacting him and he still finds pleasure in the foreplay and finds pleasure in the act of intimacy, and the same for the wife, she's still finding pleasure within that experience, then it seems fine. Different people have different things that cause arousal. So there are different types of desire. There's spontaneous desire and there's like more responsive desire. Responsive desire can occur within men where they require a certain setting, a certain context, certain things to be happening for them to feel aroused and desire that. And then so it might be that like a kind of processing issue within his body and brain that causes him to take a bit more time to become erect. Just like for a lot of women, they require a bit more time to feel aroused and to feel desire. Like I said, if it seems to be an issue within the marriage, it's worth maybe speaking to a medical health professional about it if it's very concerning. But just on the surface level, it seems fine. Absolutely, what you were touching on, that it could be if the person is consuming porn, then obviously that could be a factor.
I think if the penis is flaccid and it continues being flaccid, even after stimulation, the suspicion would be either porn or masturbation. I don't disagree with what Amirah has said because we are all not the same. However, I would like to mention the norm. There's a difference between young men and older men. Among young men, actually, sometimes you don't even have to touch the penis. Sometimes you don't even have to undress. Sometimes we are working on a project, we are writing a very serious legal letter. We're not even thinking about sex. There's no woman around. The penis can actually be erect. It's got something to do with the hormones at as a young age. If you find that you are always erect, sometimes with no reason, you are also not abnormal. It is quite normal for young men. Most men experience like the way I have just described. The problem with this is that when they reach middle age, it doesn't happen like that anymore. It happens more like the questionnaire. Penis is not ever erect. Most of the time it is flaccid. It needs stimulation. So this is where such therapists like Ian Kerner give warning to middle-aged men. When that happens, you are not abnormal because the body changes. And it is not a sign of impotence. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a question of different facet of a sexual experience that Allah is creating in you. Ian Kerner explained this. The reason why it happens is because the testosterone level naturally goes down and the estrogen level actually goes up. Not to the extent that it overtakes women, but it just goes up. Because of this, among middle-aged men, they become more empathetic. They become more able to relate to women. If you look at it from that sense, you're actually becoming a better lover because you have less external factors that hijack you away from giving attention to your women. But when this happens, many middle-aged men think that they are going impotent because they get anxious about it. The anxiety is the one that causes real impotence, and he called this self-induced impotence. And it happens, and we also have such cases in Singapore. By the time they reach age 50, they can't get Viagra and Cialis in Singapore. They go for village
Local,
concoction.
I'm looking at the question again, actually. And then there's the next question. I think this may be related. Can frequent masturbation be one of the reasons why during intercourse the penis is still flaccid?
I mean, so if you are masturbating, you are essentially pleasuring yourself. And so your genitals can become very dependent on a certain type of stimulation from yourself. And so your partner may not be able to provide that to you because you have a certain way that you enjoy receiving pleasure. There is definitely something like related to porn-induced erectile dysfunction and porn-induced premature ejaculation. So there seems to be a very common thread in a lot of the questions we've been answering today with regards to the serious effects of porn on the sexual experience between two real life humans.
I remember last year we had this question that they say we are married, but me and my partner just masturbate ourselves, not each other,
in front of
each other. Remember we had this very
interesting
question that was like bonkers for us at that time, but now maybe a year later this is common already. Okay, so same thing also. My partner is only aroused during oral sex but not during intercourse. Why? And what can I do to help him? What can I do to help him? We have actually explained. Same theme that you can only advise him. He has to take responsibility for himself. This answer, why is the partner aroused?
Different reasons. So like some people, if like going back to, let's say it is related to porn, for example, it could be certain things that were watched on porn the brain and body are dependent on. But it also could just be like, so for example, I know that in women, for example, when you think about the way that Allah created the vagina and the clitoris, most women require clitoral stimulation. And for a lot of women, oral sex, where the woman is receiving oral sex, is one way that she experiences a lot of pleasure from her clitoris being stimulated orally. So it could be that some men, they like the sensation where there are fluids involved. So with oral sex, there are like the fluids from the mouth involved. So it could be a case of like seeing whether or not adding additional fluid, like through lubrication to the penis, might be helpful. But also it might be that through intercourse, for example, maybe he is not experiencing a lot of pleasure, such as if he doesn't feel like the wife's vagina is providing enough stimulation for whatever reason. Be the pelvic floor muscle, the health of the pelvic floor muscles in the woman is such that it's not enough to provide him with pleasure, whereas it's different when it comes to the mouth. So it could be trying different methods, using lubrication. The wife can use her hands to stimulate the penis. Also, he could stimulate his penis on other parts of her body. It doesn't even have to go into the vagina. It could go on top of the vulva. It could go on a different part of her body and be stimulated that way. So yeah, try different things.
There's a question about menopause. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so the person is saying even foreplay is not working. It's important to understand that with foreplay, it's not just the physical, it's not just the stimulating physically. A lot of it is the mental and emotional side. And so, you know, going back to, are there any relationship issues that need to be resolved? Definitely in terms of hormonal levels that can impact a person's desire for intimacy. But I would say it's worth, something we touched on before, it's worth seeing intimacy is not just intercourse. There are so many other things. So if the woman is feeling is experiencing things like vaginal dryness, which is causing discomfort during intercourse, she may be put off the idea of intercourse because it doesn't feel comfortable for her. So you can explore other non-penetrative forms of intimacy that can be more pleasurable. So I would say, yeah, expand your definition of intimacy. It doesn't need to involve intercourse. And even intimacy itself doesn't have to be sexual. It can be mental, emotional intimacy where you enjoy spending time together, you know, connecting emotionally.
I haven't thought about this issue about menopause. And I felt that women can do more to have an uneventful menopause. I gone through menopause, and to me it was just uneventful, other than my period stopping. Yeah, there's no symptom at all, and that's partly because as a couple we are very conscious about our health. We take care of our health. We eat. We don't eat processed food. We go for exercises. Especially the exercises are helpful. And this doesn't start when I was like 50 years old. It started when we were young, about 30, 40. We get very conscious about our health. Fortunately. And we even like at one point were having similar hobbies. We go mountain climbing as a hobby. So I think if women need to be more conscious to take care of their health since they are young, as early as maybe 25 or 30.
Yeah, we want to mention this because with so many of these such questions, women may go thinking that they will inevitably have to suffer the symptoms. They have to understand that not every woman who goes through menopause experience the symptoms. Like hot flushes,
dryness,
vaginal dryness, even headaches, migraines, so on and so forth.
And most so important, hate husband.
And and hate the husband.
Irritated by the husband.
So it's not a part and parcel of menopause, actually. Menopause can be experienced without the known symptoms.
Yeah. Okay, very sad question.
Let me just read
my friend
the
was
question.
sexually groomed by his sister until 15 years old, and now struggle with sexual addiction but refuses professional help. He felt disgusted with himself.
Like it's very hard, like given the fact that he is refusing professional help, there's not much you can do as that person's friend other than be there for them in whatever capacity you're able to. Of course, maintaining your own boundaries. You can, of course, make dua for that person. We know the power of dua, but you know, essentially, if you've spoken to this person and you've recommended, you know, it's important for you to seek professional help and you've advised them, but that person unwilling to receive help, then there's not much more you can do. Unfortunately, for some people, they will only get help when they reach kind of rock bottom, where, you know, so make dua for them.
If you had been sexually abused in your childhood or when you are teens, it's very normal to have this response. To be they will go two ways. They totally withdraw from sex, or they become sexually active. And there's a lot of literature why this happen, you know. It's a coping mechanism. The theory behind is that the sexual promiscuity is the need to have control over your body. You choose actually to have sex with people so that it's your form of controlling what's happening to you compared to what happened to you. So this is theory behind it. But most importantly, in sexual trauma, the body keeps score. You know,
Yeah.
your entire body actually will be bruised and injured by what you experience, and to be assaulted by somebody close is actually has a lot of emotional social dimension, which really mess up how you see sex and even yourself as a human being. So
Yeah.
just to acknowledge that this is what is happening to you and that you are sexually promiscuous, you know, that is just the reaction. But there is hope lah. You need, I agree with Amirah, they must each rock bottom, then they will seek help. And sexual trauma is a very complex issue. You need to seek professional help. Not only the normal counselor, but counselors who specialize in trauma.
Yeah.
Entire field about how to help yourself, you know, from the
Yeah.
cognitive behavior and even the somatic effect. So I would really encourage the person to seek help. As a friend, you encourage them, you give them the resources, maybe.
From that, I mean, which I'm hearing for the first time, what can help the boy, the guy, is to know that what he is turning out into is not an indication that he is a bad person, that he is a weird person. He is actually a victim, and this is a well-documented coping mechanism. So he should stop blaming himself. He should stop, feeling weird and feeling disgusted about himself. He should know that actually what is happening to him is actually natural, but not necessarily is acceptable. But maybe that is an information which he never knew.
Yeah, so we are putting on the screen hypersexuality as trauma response. Google on this, get support group. And I hope with this awareness, then there will be a realization that, you can do better for yourself. What happened is in the past, you don't have to be a victim, you can be a survivor. In your opinion, is masturbation considered cheating? Since he's looking at other women having intercourse and erects.
There's something wrong with the question. Because if looking at other women, does not necessarily
the
mean...
screen.
Yeah, so they've said it's masturbation, but actually it seems like he's looking at other women having intercourse. So
actually
maybe
it's
he's seeing this on porn.
Masturbation.
Yeah.
It's not just masturbation, but it's porn-induced.
Exactly.
So it's porn, watching porn and masturbating consider cheating.
So it's the porn part which actually you can say as cheating. And you're not just cheating your wife or your partner, you're actually cheating your religion. Because it is it's a zina of the eye. And also the commandment in Islam is not just don't do fornication, but don't come close to fornication. So it's cheating in many ways.
Right.
The masturbation part is a different thing.
And we have talked in length about it.
No, I agree. And I think like the fact that the question is it a form of cheating? That this person is watching porn in order to masturbate. I saw a video recently by a marriage expert, a Muslim marriage expert, and she was saying that when you get married, it's not just the man and the woman entering a relationship. You've also got Allah in that relationship. You've brought Allah into that relationship by choosing to get married and do the nikah and, get married in an Islamic way. And so if you are watching porn, Allah is present with you in this marriage. Okay. And so in my opinion, I do see consuming porn, intentionally consuming porn over and over. I see it as a form of cheating because let's imagine that porn didn't exist. That man would either be completely satisfied with his own wife because he is the only one he has eyes for, or if he wanted to do something wrong, he would go and commit real zina, like whether he would go and find another woman and he would do it in that way if porn didn't exist. But the fact that porn is so much easier to access for a lot of people compared to going out and finding someone, it's just easy. A lot of the time it's just free or just easy to access. And so in my opinion, I see it as a form of cheating.
Next question actually.
Yes,
and
perfect.
Even though we have 4 more minutes, I think we could just attempt this. My response to this
Yeah.
is you have to differentiate between fertility and virility. As we have explained earlier on, the solo activity can actually affect your virility while you are together with a partner. Masturbation can affect virility, but whether it can affect fertility or not, okay, that is the thing which we do not know.
Right.
Let's say it doesn't affect fertility because it's a question of sperm count. How we can differentiate between virility and fertility is like fertility is like having bullets, how many bullets you have. But virility is about your gun. So even if masturbation doesn't affect your fertility, doesn't affect your quantity of bullets, if you do not have a good gun, it's not going to go anywhere. So masturbation, even if it doesn't affect your sperm count, it will affect fertility in the sense that you are not able to issue the bullets to where the target should be.
Yeah, so we have come to the end of it. Any last word?
I think 2 hours is
No, thank you.
quite
This
good.
was a great conversation. I hope lots of people found benefit in what we discussed and all the questions we answered. But no, nothing from my side. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's our pleasure.
hope people found benefit.
Let's formally close this session with Tasbih Kafarah and Suratul As. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Wal 'asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihati wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr. Thank you very much again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.